If you guys are curious about little mini color corrections or an easy way to correct color, this is gonna be an incredible tutorial that you're not gonna wanna miss. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to my YouTube channel. I am so excited to share with you guys this amazing transformation that I did on a model a couple days ago. She came in with a bunch of different colors going on her hair, a lot of warm tones, some lines, a little bit of banding, and I went through and I did a little mini color correction on her using my signature foliage / balayage technique. So if you guys are curious about little mini color corrections or an easy way to correct color, to add in a little bit more ash, take out some of that warmth, and to just really kind of balance everything out, blend it through, this is gonna be an incredible tutorial that you're not gonna wanna miss. So let's jump over to a couple days ago and I'm gonna show you guys around. All right guys, so this is our starting canvas. So you guys can see she's got a lot of different colors in there. She's got some of her natural color here at the top and then kind of some existing balayage pieces that she has. And then she kind of has some a little bit deeper ends. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna brighten up these ends. We're gonna give her a little bit more depth, some more contrast, and I'm just gonna blend everything through and give it a lot more dimension, which I'm excited about. And then we're gonna pop these kind of ends. They're just kind of gotten brassy over time, probably just like, you know, lightening it, but not quite lightening all the way there. So we're gonna brighten those up and I'm excited to work with this hair. All right, so we are gonna be mixing up 25 volume and 15 volume. This is gonna be for her ends that are kind of already lightened, but she has fine hair, so that's why I'm doing 15 volume. And we're also gonna put Olaplex in them too, just to ensure the health of her hair. But 15 volume, 25 volume, we'll start with that, and then if we need to increase to 30 and 20, we can. Also for her base, we're going to be using 6N and 6A colorants. We're going to use this as her base and her low light. So we sectioned her hair from in front of the ears forward, and I just usually clip this away. I don't need the fancy clip it up and everything. And then we're gonna work with the back of her hair, but because we are gonna be applying a base to her hair, I don't wanna apply the base to the entire head and have it processed too long up here. So what I usually do is I section out kind of half of the head, and I apply the base to this bottom section first, and then when we work through each section, I'll apply the base right before that. So when I'm applying her base, I'm just gonna apply it about an inch and a half down, and then we'll drag it down with a low light or when we're doing her highlight pieces. So on her, I'm using a semi-permanent color, Gold Ball Colorants, and I'm only doing a level 6, which is basically her natural color. But the reason why I'm doing a semi-permanent color versus a permanent color is because A, we're not covering any gray, and B, she's a new mom, so I want to keep her super low maintenance, and so a semi-permanent color is going to allow us to keep it super low maintenance on her, and it'll have it grow out without there being a root line. All right, so now we're gonna start in the bottom, and I always do a diagonal back section around the hairline. This is going to be our very first section. I wanna make sure we have a nice pop of blonde right there, so when she wears her hair forward, it's gonna lay really nicely. So first we'll just section out this guy. I do about a ½ an inch away from the hairline, and this will be our first section. And with each section that we do on her entire head, you guys can see I've already dragged her base down about an inch and a half, and then I'm going to weave each section. And I don't want to take it too thick, you guys. The thicker you go, the more chances you're gonna have for spottiness or a line. So the thinner you do, the better. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna tease at the root, and this is gonna help just diffuse it a little bit more too. And again, since I'm using a permanent color, this isn't damaging on the hair or anything, but this is going to help just diffuse that root a little bit more. Then I'm gonna take my long foil, and if you guys want to know, these foils are from Framar. They're amazing. It's my favorite color, rose gold, so check them out. They're great because you can tear them to the size that you need. But what we're gonna do is, you guys can see I just applied the base over that, dragged it down to about, you know, maybe 3 inches. Then we're gonna take our lightener and we're gonna apply it through here. Now this is my 25 volume. So this will give us a good amount of lift, and we're starting with 25 volume down here just because her hair is a little bit finer, and this is going to sit on for the longest amount of time. And you guys can see I'm just kind of blending that lightener up into that base. This is going to help just give us a little bit more of a blend too. Now I'm not going up into that tease section, I'm just kind of doing right below it, just feathering it in. And then I always keep a dry brush on hand, and I use this to kind of just erase any lines that could possibly get there, just to kind of clean it up. And then I'll take another foil, lay it on top, and I always just kind of fold up the ends and lock them in place. The cool thing about doing this too is you're making sure that you're not going to overlap anything, and I can always go back and I can open up the foil to see how things are doing, and that's why I love using this technique. Alright, so we have completed my bottom little section here, and she actually has a decent amount of hair in here in this section, so I'm just going to split this into half again, and we're going to apply the base to here. Again, we're working in those sections so that this base isn't processing too long, because if we leave the base on, like let's say in this section, and by the time I get to it, it's processed for 20 minutes, now I'm having to lift through that base again. So that's why it's really important to work in sections, and it keeps your sections really nice and clean as well. Alright, so now I'm going to go in, and because I just did one across, I usually do 2 diagonal backs to 1 straight across. So now, because I've done my straight across, I'm going to do another diagonal back. This is switching up the pattern so that you don't have the same pattern going throughout the hair. You want to make sure you're kind of almost like bricklaying it across the hair so that you get different patterns throughout it. So what we're going to do on this first diagonal back section, you guys can see she's got a little bit of brightness in there already. So first I'm going to weave out my highlight piece. And I want to make sure that I pick up this little bright piece in here, because I don't want to cover that up, because I'm going to do a low light in here, and we wouldn't want to cover up something that she already has brightened. That piece is really beautiful, so we're just going to clip away that highlight piece. And now underneath, you guys can see I have this low light. So we're going to pick this piece up, and I'm just going to apply my low light right through here. This is just going to help create some more dimension, some more contrast. That's what I said I wanted to do with her hair. Because you guys can see these kind of lighter ends. Now I want to darken them up and just kind of get rid of that little bit of brassiness in there. And that's why I did 6N, 6A. It'll help me keep it a little bit more ashy, but still that richness with the 6N. And now we're ready for our highlight piece. So what I'm actually going to do too, because she has this bright piece coming up right through the middle, I want to make sure I'm not covering that up or overlapping it. So I'm just going to take this guy out. We're going to let him hang out right there. And I'm going to tease it. And you guys can see I'm working with kind of a wide tooth comb here because we have the base in there. Normally I work with a fine tooth comb, but because that base is in there, I just don't want to tangle her hair too much or anything like that. So always work with a wide tooth comb. So apply the foil, and then we'll get our base going in here. And I'm not too concerned to get the base fully in there, fully saturated, because it is working with her natural color. I'm not going to have any like hollow spots, but you do want to make sure that you are getting in there, especially if you're going darker or anything like that. So I'm just going to weave this guy out right here. I'm going to go back through and cover that with 15 volume, but I don't want to put 25 on it just because I don't want to damage or over process her hair. Now I'm going to go back in and just kind of feather this through into our base. And you guys want to make sure too, when you are working with a little bit thicker of a section, that you're getting the lightener all the way through. So I'm literally taking the back of my hand and I'm using that as like my support to push that product into it so that there's no hollow spots or pieces that don't get lightened throughout. So we've done 2 diagonal back sections, 1, 2, 1, 2, and now we're going to do a straight across one. I'm going to take this section a little bit thinner. We'll clip this guy away. And you guys can see, once I did that, I opened up a lot more depth in here, so we're just gonna weave this out. I am gonna do a low light again on this one, just because I wanna get some more depth within the hair, so we'll clip this away first. We'll throw our low light in. And the reason why I always leave low lights is because, again, I want it to be really natural. So if I just had done a whole chunk, this would just add more depth in there, which is good, but sometimes you want to still have some brightness as well. You don't want to take away all of it. So I'm just going to weave this out. And sometimes when I'm throwing a low light in there, I will leave the ends out with her because her ends are a little bit darker than that mid-shaft area. I'm not going to. But sometimes if people have a little bit of brightness to the ends, I'll just kind of blend that low light through and leave the ends out. Just to keep that brightness to the ends. But like I said, with her, we're covering that up. And I always do the silver side down, especially when I'm working with a colored foil, just in case, because I wouldn't want the lightener to activate any kind of color that's in this dye or whatever and cause it to put a shadow on it. So I always work with the silver side of the foil to the color, just to be on the safe side. And she's got some kind of brighter pieces in here, so the only place I'm going to do 25 is right here, kind of at the root.
just to blend into the color. But then everything else is gonna be 15 because she already kind of has some lighter pieces and then I don't wanna hurt that or overlap it. This is our last top section and you guys can see she's already got some previous highlights in there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to find where her darkness is and I'm gonna kind of weave through because I don't wanna overlap any of these guys. So I'm gonna just utilize what she kind of already has, that brightness in there. And then I'm just gonna use this to kind of be our main piece, but I'm actually gonna drag down the darkness so that it gives it still dimension and she's not just like this blonde veil on top of the last piece on top of her head. So you guys can see I teased it, and that's also going to be taking hair that was down here, we teased it up, so this is also going to create depth just by having that teased area. But again, I'm dragging this down a good little bit. And we're going in with our 25, blending that up in there, kind of refreshing the end. I'm gonna just do 15 on her ends right here. And again, making sure to get all those little hollow pieces because look, if I open this up, there's hair in there that hasn't been touched with lightner. So you gotta make sure that you're getting that all the way in there. So now that we're done with the back, we're gonna switch our way to the front, but we will be applying our base just kind of in this front section first, and then we'll go through and do each quadrant. So I applied our base to just kind of her front hairline area here, and I only applied it just about an inch down because I wanna make sure we're getting these pieces really nice and close to the roots. So first we're gonna do our first section, which will be our first little highlight piece. I do it usually about an inch away from the hairline, and I'm just gonna kind of weave this guy here. And she already has a lot of brightness already in the front here, so I'm not too worried about it having to pull through a lot. And I'm still using 25, you guys. I haven't switched over to 30 or anything yet. Now you guys can see she already has some of these lighter pieces. We're just gonna leave that out of the foil. But for this piece, I am gonna lighten this a little bit. It's really important to stay detailed about this kind of stuff because we don't want to harm these hairs, especially the ones right around our face. We don't want that breaking off. So just being really intentional with those pieces. All right, now we're gonna take this foil, we're gonna leave this little blonde guy out, fold it in thirds. And this can be tricky when we have a base in here. We're just gonna fold this corner in, and we're gonna fold this up, making sure not to get it on any of that base. Lay this foil down, and then we're gonna have all these pieces just kind of lay down to whichever way she hearts it. Then I'm going to take a little bit of my spray bottle and just wet it down right there so that we don't get a line. All right, so now we're around her face and we're doing about a ½ inch thick, like just away from the hairline, but we're gonna do pretty fine one for this piece around her face. You guys can see I'm just gonna leave that out. I'm gonna squish that down there so it's not leaning up against her skin and causing any spotting or stains. So applying a little bit more lightner, just kind of feathering it up in there. And I am getting pretty close to our hairline because we want this to grow out really, really subtly. And I want to give her as much longevity with her hair color as possible. And I'm going to do one more of those. Now I don't tease these pieces because they're pretty short or pretty thin anyways. So another like ½ inch away. And you guys can see she already has some brightness in there, so we're just gonna kind of enhance this and bring it up around her root. We're done. This application took about an hour and a half. It usually takes a little bit longer because we are pulling the lowlights, highlights, and a base through. So just know it is gonna take a little bit more time, but the results are definitely gonna be worth it. So after I'm done applying all my foils, I always go through and I check this foil because this is our top foil, and you guys can see how it's already lifting so nicely. One thing I always want to check for is to make sure that it's blending really good. So I'll sometimes just go back in and hit it with a little bit of fresh lightener just to make sure that it's blending really good. And remember, we do have that teasing that's also going to help blend it a little bit more, but I always just check it and just make sure that it's lifting nicely and that's looking really good. So you guys can see she's already getting to kind of a warm yellow, but it's looking really good. And then I'll check some of the other foils too, just to double check. We're probably gonna stick her under the heater just for a little bit, but just to kind of keep it warm because it's kind of cooler in here. All right, so for her toner, we're gonna mix up 9N, 9P, and 9GI, all equal parts. And I did 1.5 ounces of our formula, and then a ½ ounce of clear, and then the rest developer. So this is a beautiful formula that I use all the time and love it. Alright, so this is what our hair lifted to naturally. You guys can see we've got a lot of beautiful tones in there. Just needs a little bit of a toner, but look at all the dimension. It's gonna be gorgeous. So as I'm toning her hair, I always start in the bottom because in case something were to pull too ashy or too dark or whatever, you always want to have that be on the underside of the hair, not on the front around the hairline. So we're always going to start in the bottom. Plus, naturally the hair should have a little bit more depth underneath than it will have around the face. We want to keep it as bright as possible. So I always go through and I apply the toner kind of to the root area first. And this is basically a little bit lighter than a level 9, basically like a level 10 that we're toning her with because I don't want her to get too dark, but we're just gonna kind of shift that shade and kind of get rid of some of this warmth in there. Like I said, it's not too warm, but just wanna tone it up and make it a little bit more ashy. So I apply to the root area first, and then I'm gonna pull down through her ends, more towards the end because I wanna keep the brightness at her ends. I'd rather have a little bit more depth in that mid shaft to root area. I put a little bit of 9GI in her formula just so that it doesn't get too ashy. It's gonna have like a nice iridescent gold. We want it to be an ashy gold, so not gray or, you know, kind of like that blah ash color. But I also don't want it to be too warm. So I love the 9GI in Shades EQ. It works beautifully. And I just love the tones that it gets. So we're gonna let this process for probably about 5 to 8 minutes, and then we'll rinse it out when it's ready. Guys, here's our final product. Look at that beautiful color. It turned out so beautiful. You guys can see all the dimension that we have in there, all the beautiful tones, how ashy it looks, but it's still like a warm ash. It's not too ashy. It's kind of like a beigey color, which I really love, and it just looks super shiny. We finished her off with the Balayage Raw Smoothing Styling Milk, a little bit in there right before we blow dried, and then we also put in a little bit of the Balayage Raw Texturizing Styling Spray, just to give her hair a little bit more texture. But I love it.
Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Thanks for watching the entire thing. And if you want to see more videos like this, make sure to hit the subscribe button below. I'm going to be sharing all types of videos like this, my entire techniques, formulas, business advice, all that kind of stuff. All good stuff. If you are a hairstylist, you're not going to want to miss it. And make sure to come over and say hi over on Instagram. I love meeting you guys, and I want to know, did this video help you? Did you learn something new? And if you tried out the technique, I want to see your work. So make sure to come say hi over on Instagram, and again, hit the subscribe button below because we don't want to miss out on anything else. If you guys enjoyed this, let me know in the comments below. I'm so excited to have you guys here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.